us as a whole, we work well as a team. But he plays offense, I play defense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's real in a business. And it's funny because I do it with my business partner, Meineke, and I do it with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we have a personal relationship, she's offense. She's in the shop. She loves operations. She loves dealing with the people on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I'm in the background.
Right.
Who's dealing with the lawsuit?
There you go.
Who's dealing with the
Compliance.
the HVAC system breaking down? Who's dealing with the lease?
Mm-hmm.
Who's dealing with all this other stuff that is here to take away from the business?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You build the business. I'll protect what you bring in.
Correct.
Okay. And we do that. I do that for both sides. And I find my role. I love my role.
Right.
Now, would I go in business by myself? I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But I love the partnership arrangement where you have people that are competent.
Right.
And you have to have that hard conversation about what do you bring to the table? What do I bring to the table? And is it enough to make this business successful?
Welcome to the Boomlennial podcast, hosted by the dynamic duo cousins, Chee and Dee. This podcast celebrates the synergy between a millennial and a baby boomer, showcasing the fusion of generational leadership, insights, and real-life experiences.
We'll unveil strategies not to just survive, but thrive as leaders in an ever-evolving world. Let's ignite the transformation we aspire to see in ourselves, our teams, and our businesses. Let's get started.
What's up, family? Welcome to another exciting episode of the Boomlennial podcast, your go-to space for real talk on entrepreneurship, business leadership, and real estate. I'm Chee.
And I'm Dee, and today we're going to talk about franchise empires, mastering leadership and scaling your business. Before we dive into today's episode, Chee, how was your Easter?
Wow. Thank you for asking. Our Easter was fabulous. We actually had our worship service at Georgia Tech. You know, I'm a member of Change Church under the leadership of the wonderful and dynamic Pastor Darius Daniels. But usually we're in Duluth, so it was much closer to me. It saved me about 15 minutes. All the children looked so cute and beautiful in their Easter outfits, and it was just a wonderful, powerful service.
Nice.
How was your Easter?
My Easter was great. So we actually attended our church, Elizabeth Baptist Church, under Bishop Oliver. And so the kids were dressed up. We had a little dinner afterwards, and it was a great way to end our Lenten fast. So
wonderful.
Good times.
That's awesome. Well, let's get back to the show. Now, Dee, I know you're excited about today's special guest.
I am.
So would you do the honors of introducing our wonderful viewers to our guest today?
Yes. So I have the pleasure of introducing not only a wonderful business owner, franchiser, entrepreneur, all the things, corporate person in his past life, but I have the honor to introduce my big brother, Jazen Brown. Jazen is a dynamic entrepreneur. He is a business strategist with over 15 years of experience in sales, operations, and scaling businesses.
Wow.
He is the co-founder of DB Holdings of Georgia, LLC. He has successfully expanded multiple Meineke Car Care centers in Atlanta and created newly built locations and transformed underperforming locations into thriving businesses in a multi-million-dollar revenues, which is great. In addition to his work in the automotive industry, Jazen also founded QuickPack Logistics, where he secured major contracts with Amazon and FedEx. So he was in the e-commerce space. Mm-hmm. He grew his fleet from 10 to over 70 vehicles, building high-performing teams with employing over 120 employees in the state of Georgia. Wow. I think that's super dynamic.
Phenomenal.
His ability to identify opportunities, optimize operations, and drive growth has established him as a leader in entrepreneurship and business development. With a mechanical engineering degree from Howard University, HU, and an MBA in information systems, Jazen's expertise span beyond technical and business domains. His corporate background includes experience with Ford, Chrysler, AT&T, Delta Dental, where he managed high-value accounts. negotiated strategic contracts, and promoted operational excellence. And may I add, Jazen is also a veteran of the United States Army.
Wow. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Jazen is passionate about helping business owners grow, securing government contracts, and creating opportunities for minority-owned businesses. Today, he is here to share his entrepreneur journey, insights on business, operations, and expansion, and strategies that fueled his success. I am so inspired by Jazen every day, so I am happy to introduce Jazen to the show.
Woohoo! Welcome to the show!
Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure. Heck of an introduction. Making me feel good. Absolutely.
Well, you have done a lot. So I just appreciate you coming on our show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we are excited, Jazen. So I wanted to know, so that I can know and our viewers to know, can we just start with the background? Would you tell us about your background and how you got into the franchise world?
Wow. Getting to the franchise world took some time, right? My background is, I'm a country boy. I'm from South Carolina, a small island off the coast of Charleston called Wadmalaw Island. A Geechee Gullah Island, if you will.
SC representing. Yep. I'm from South Carolina too.
So I grew up, when I say country boy, we had fields. My family still owns land down there. We still grow crop. We still work the land, if you will. Most of my dad's entire generation is from there. My mom's from North Carolina area and grew up in New York. So I, humble beginnings and wide open spaces.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do when I was young was to get off the island. Get off of Wadmalaw as quickly as possible. I remember being very young, and we used to lay in the fields. We used to have these things called summer signs. It's a weed that would grow, and you could chew it. It was sweet. And I used to lay in the fields and just look up at the sky and look at the clouds and just imagine what it's like off the island, being somewhere else. Living somewhere else. Wow. Fortunately, I had very progressive parents. So my dad grew up down there.
Okay.
And my mom, they met in New York because they left. My dad left Wadmalaw and went to school in New York, high school. Finished high school, got track scholarship, married my mom at 17.
Okay.
Wow.
They're still together.
Oh, what a blessing.
Yes,
they're so cute
absolutely.
Too.
It is a blessing.
Elderly couple.
Yep. So they made sure that we didn't spend all of our time on Wadmalaw.
Gotcha.
Every summer we were somewhere else.
Okay.
And we did a lot of traveling when we were young. Gave us a lot of exposure. So my ambition to want to get off the island wasn't necessarily because I just didn't like where I lived. I just knew that there was a lot more out there.
Right.
I have two brothers, and I'm the middle kid.
Okay.
So I'm the diplomat, if you will.
All right.
My hands are always up, keeping them from fighting one another. And that's to this day. Right?
Oh, wow.
So great family. I had a great foundation. And I had ambitions, obviously, to do a lot more than just stay on the island. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. It's just more opportunity was out there for me. And I felt like that when I was young. So after high school, my ambitions were to get out of Charleston, get off of Wadmalaw, and get out of the state as far as I possibly could. Howard University, I was pushed into Howard by my cousin, Antonio Washington. We call him Bessie. And Bessie was, he went to Howard, very smart coming up. And he went there, he got into medical school after Howard. And he came back. And he used to talk about Howard like there was nothing else.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Now, mind you, my older brother went to A&T.
Okay.
And my entire family is A&T Aggies, hardcore.
Okay.
So me breaking the chain, breaking the norm was different.
All right.
So I went to Howard. I had an outstanding time.
That's great.
It was the best experience from a college standpoint that I'd ever had in my life. And it was just, again, the exposure. It wasn't easy getting there because I was in the military. So yeah, right after
That's
high
what I'm saying.
school.
So you
Mhm.
went into the military right after high school.
Right after high school. After I joined, back then you used to be able to join the military, at least the reserves. You used to be able to join the reserves at 17.
Oh.
So in 11th grade, my dad said, "Hey, listen, we have to plan for school. How are you going to pay for it?"
Wow.
not,
Yes.
not,
Mhm.
not how am I? How is he
Exactly.
going to assist in
Right.
paying?
Exactly.
How are you going to figure this out?
Exactly.
So I played basketball. I had a partial scholarship. Didn't go through in time.
Right.
So I had to make a decision after high school on what I wanted to do.
Ah.
So I said, in order to pay for college, I need GI Bill. I need some money. So
Right.
I joined the reserves. Had to go to basic training.
Okay.
I didn't get accepted to Howard until the summer I was in basic training. So I had a brochure.
Ah.
I had a Howard brochure, and that got me through basic training because I would just look through the brochure all the time.
That was sweet.
Right?
Yeah.
And
that
I'm
was
looking
your
at all the
motivation.
photos about that. Yeah, this is
Right.
pre-social media. I had no
Yes.
phones, cell phones, or anything like that. So, I knew what I wanted to do after I got out of basic training. I got to school late. I got to school 3 weeks late.
Ah.
Classes had started already.
Mhm.
My dad and my older brother, they arranged housing. I lived in a church house, an AME church house,
Oh
because all the
wow.
housing was gone.
Oh,
I missed it,
wow.
right?
Yeah.
So my start at Howard was rough,
Okay.
but I was out of basic training. I had a little bit of money in my pocket, and I was off and running. I really didn't care. I was like, listen, I'm here.
Mhm.
I got a room.
Yep.
I got a car.
You're gonna make the best of
I'm gonna
it.
make the best of
There
it.
you
And
go.
that's what I did. So
That's awesome.
Howard was awesome.
That's
It was a
that's
great
really good.
opportunity.
Well, you know, you brought an interesting point because I never thought of that because I do know that when you're in the military, you can, they will help pay for your school,
Mhm.
but I never thought the reserve. So that was a great
Absolutely.
strategy
Yep.
that your father actually sat down
Mhm.
with you and you guys came up with. That's genius.
Right.
Wow. So did you all hear that, parents? Our youth out there, you're in the 11th or 10th grade and you're thinking, I want to go to college, but my mom or my parents haven't saved any money for college. You do not have to let that stop you.
Mhm.
The reserves, is that still a vital option?
It's still a viable option. I think it's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
The 14 years that I was in, it was a challenge because you have to show up for drill every weekend.
Every
It's
weekend or one weekend out of a
month.
month?
And then two weeks for annual training in the summer.
Okay, right.
So, my dad always taught me to always have a backup plan.
Right.
I don't necessarily know if I believe in that 100% now,
Yes.
but back then I knew that I didn't want to make a career of the military. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with it, to be honest with you. And so I knew I was going to finish school for sure, but I wanted something else just in case
Right.
this didn't work out the way I wanted it to.
Right.
So to be honest with you, I was in ROTC all through college.
Oh.
So the first 3 years, first 3 years of college, I was in ROTC.
Okay.
I was different because I went to basic training in AIT and then come to Howard. I joined, most of the kids that were in the program were on scholarship.
Ah.
Right.
Mhm.
So my goal was to, if I go through ROTC, then I can get a scholarship too.
Ah.
But so I did it non-scholarship. So people
Okay.
were looking at me like I was crazy. Like, why are you doing this? You're not getting paid. But what I did get was a monthly check.
Wow.
About
Yes.
about $100.
Yeah.
And I think back then it was a lot of money. It
Right.
was like $150.
So you were not a poor college student like
Oh,
the
man.
rest of us,
I
right?
was balling.
No, that's awesome.
150? Oh my
Oh,
God.
absolutely. In college?
And I had drill checks too. So the drill checks. And then of course the GI Bill helped pay tuition.
Okay.
So that was the biggest
That's
win
great.
for me at the time. And it didn't take care of all my tuition, but it reduced it
So
significantly.
much. Okay. So when you graduated, did you have any student loans?
Yes, absolutely.
You did have
So
student loans yet?
towards the end, ROTC was 3 years.
Mhm.
I've graduated the program. You become what they call a cadet in the reserves. So I was a
Okay.
cadet in the reserves. I got promoted from an E2 to an E5. So
Okay.
now I'm making a little bit more money in the reserves, which was a great thing. But the GI Bill ends after you finish the program.
Ah.
So I wasn't getting as much money as I was initially. So I had to take out student loans.
Ah.
So I took out some student. I'm glad I did it because, to be honest with you, and then I started taking out loans enough for me to have some money to live on
Mm.
because I worked all through college.
Ah.
So I had ROTC, I worked, and I was going to school
Wow.
full time.
So did you have any time for fun?
I made time for fun.
Absolutely.
You're at an
Did you pledge while you were in school?
I pledged ROTC.
Okay. That was your okay.
It wasn't really much more time for anything else.
Gotcha.
To be honest with you, I did. I had some friends that were my closest friend at the time. He was a Kappa, and he was urging me to try.
Right.
Actually, I take that back. He was kind of like, I don't know if you really want to do this. So I looked at it and I said, I went through basic training. I don't need anybody spanking up on me and beating up on me right now. And I just I wasn't in that mode.
I got you.
At the time. Looking back on it, maybe I would have if I wasn't in ROTC.
I understand. Yeah. I understand. Well, so fast forward here when we want you to put your franchise hat on now. Mm-hmm. What is one of the biggest misconceptions people have about owning a franchise and versus building a business from scratch?
For franchises, the assumption is that you come in and everything is in place for you. You have brand recognition, and it's just going to be easy to hop in the driver's seat and just take off. It's really, really far from the truth. You are going to work. Even though a system's in place, it's no different than a startup. You still have to get familiar with the process. You still have to deal with the franchisor.
Yes.
And I laugh at that because I got a lot of stories behind that.
Okay.
And you still have to manage your money properly. So you're new to that when you initially start.
Okay.
Right? And you're relying on the franchisor to guide you a little bit. They have different goals than you. Okay? Their ambition is to keep that business open so that you can continue paying your franchise fees.
Gotcha.
So the perception is that it's going to be easy. And I think that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions out there about franchises. The other misconception is that the brand recognition is just going to bring people into your store no matter what. And you don't have to, right, you don't have to market your business as much. And that you would rely on the franchisor. Part of your fees that you pay, is a MAF fee, MAF, that you pay out every month, but you don't necessarily see the marketing effort come from the franchisor. That's not every company, but in my case, it really was. We had some issues in the beginning. So those are two very big misconceptions for me.
Okay. Very good.
That's a good one.
That is very good.
Yeah. Because a lot of times I think people don't see that those marketing dollars are national dollars. They roll up to the national.
There you go.
But that doesn't happen in your particular
in your local market,
or your local market. And so, that's a good observation.
Everything.
What are some harsh realities about franchising that most people don't consider when they're thinking about franchising? And then, have you ever had a franchise flop?
Never had a franchise flop. However, we have. I'm gonna answer your second question first, and I'll come back to the first question. Never had a franchise flop, but I had to restructure. We had to restructure a number of locations that were struggling, and we did. So you have to make a decision on what you're going to do in business, especially when you have multiple franchises. It's okay to have one. All your decision making goes into that one.
Right.
When you start to scale and grow. You assume that what you do for the successful one is going to apply to all of them. So you have this tendency to say, okay, I'm just going to rinse and repeat, duplicate exactly what I'm doing right now, and it's going to work. And that's so really far from the truth, right? In our case, we have multiple locations in different areas of the Atlanta metro, and it's a different demographic.
There you go.
It's a different customer base.
That's right.
Depending on where you're located. So you try to duplicate what you do at a successful location. I'll give you a great example. The difference between Peachtree City and Forest Park.
Oh gosh. Okay. Absolutely.
The areas, Forest Park is a little rougher area. It's saturated with mom and pop shops. No big name brands. And Meineke is sticking right in the middle of it. You would think, and we opened that center, You would think that, okay, we're going to turn this into a fleet center because we're going to use this just for fleet work, because there's no way we're going to get residential work from this based on this demographic, right? You flip to Peachtree City, retirement area, golf cart community.
That's right.
Right? You're thinking, okay, man, people should just flock in because there's no other, well, I would say no other, but very limited competition in the area, which is true. People do come in, but not as many people come in. So Forest Park, high volume, which was a surprise to us because a lot of retail folks came in because they wanted a name brand and a warranty, which again, you don't know what you don't know until you actually implement. All of a sudden, these people are starting to come into the store, and I'm like, why are so many people coming in the store? We don't get it. And we start asking customers, give some feedback, and they're telling us that, man, it's just good to come into a place that I can trust, that I can rely on, and I have some type of warranty, so that I can come back if something goes wrong. They haggle on you on price, but they show up.
I got you.
Which turned out to be a very, very good thing in that case.
Right.
Peachtree City, very few customers, but they don't haggle on price.
Right.
The price is the price.
Just my mind thought, because the demographics is there, is you're dealing with high income earners.
Right.
Okay. And just my mind, just thinking, my little business hat is, I would think that probably they're also driving high dollar, high value vehicles. And sometimes at that price point, they go to the dealerships.
They do. However, that retirement community is also price conscious and very sensitive about things that they take care of over time. So they may be retired, living on a fixed income.
Okay.
And they're not running out to buy brand new cars. They're taking their existing vehicles, which is out of warranty, and they're taking care of those vehicles. So they want good quality, the work to be done right the first time, along with the warranty, but they're willing to pay whatever price that you require as a business, and so they don't haggle as much. They don't need financing as much. So there's a big difference.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Wow.
Well, and it sounds like you had to open a few of these locations and try some things, some promos, some ups and downs, some ebbs and flows to the business to kind of get your mix and your flavor and figure out what works. So that's
you do. You have to, and you know firsthand what we do with this. Marketing works. For this particular business, local marketing works. You have to spend the money on it, but it gets people in the door.
Okay.
So the way that we define marketing is what happens with the customer from the time that they walk through the door till the time they leave. Right? That's your marketing opportunity. It's for them to see your process from beginning to end. It's okay to get customers in the door, but what do you do with them after you get them in the door? Will they return? Are you presenting the best value to them when they're there?
Absolutely.
And if you're not doing that, then it's a question mark on whether that customer is going to come back. And we make more business with return customers than we do brand new ones.
Absolutely.
Our business model was built around that.
Okay.
So when we market to people, we're marketing to previous customers.
Absolutely.
Right? And we're giving them value because we know this is repeatable. People are going to need maintenance on their vehicle no matter what. And they have a choice on where they want to go. Hopefully they keep coming back to us, and that's the goal, is to have a long-term relationship with the folks that do come in.
Gotcha.
Yep. That's why the local marketing really works.
What do you think is one of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make when scaling? So going from one location to multiple, what are maybe two mistakes that you think is important to highlight?
Goes back to something I said earlier about just simply duplicating what you think works with one location with the next. With the 6 locations that we did have, each location was different.
Yeah.
Totally different. Now, in the long run, some of them actually end up being similar, but every location is different, and hiring for that location is difficult. You're looking for you're looking for a demographic that you almost have to create yourself, right? What works for your business? And on paper, people look great.
Oh, yes. We know about
People
that.
look great. People look great on paper.
Yes.
And this is a talent, you know what I mean? That you have to develop over time is reading people, understanding them.
Mm-hmm.
Do they work for your business?
Mm-hmm.
And that's very difficult to do. And I can't say we haven't mastered it, but that's a big, um, hiccup if you don't do it right.
Right.
Oh,
If you're
yes.
scaling and you're just throwing people in there
Mm-hmm.
because they look good on paper, they have the experience. It really is. It's a disruptor when you're scaling to have to constantly put new people in
Oh,
place
gosh.
if they
Absolutely.
don't work out for you the first
Oh,
time.
absolutely.
And we didn't realize this in the beginning. We just assumed. Well, my business partner definitely realized it, but he understood this is a necessity with the business. We have to get the right people in,
Mm-hmm.
and we just kept bringing in new people,
Right.
one after the other. He's not
Mm-hmm.
working, you got to go. He's not working, you got to go. This person quit, and then after a while, you're kind of like, golly, man, this should be nice if we can find some stability.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest with you, that didn't come until, I would say, in the last year and a half, maybe 2 years,
Okay.
that we developed an employee demographic that works for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We know what type of person we need to have in place in order
Mm-hmm.
to execute that marketing plan.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's one hurdle that you have to get over when scaling.
Okay.
The other is cash flow. Right?
Yes. Okay. The money.
We all need the money
Yes.
to keep it moving.
The money, if you don't monitor your money properly, you can get in big trouble.
Okay.
And we've been down that road. We made mistakes with money. I give you a great example. We didn't pay ourselves for the first 2 years of the businesses open, and we scaled really fast.
Gotcha.
We went from one location, and then we opened 2 locations for the next 2 years. So we had 5 locations in less than 3 years.
Ah, okay.
So we opened 2 locations in 1 year and 2 locations the following year,
Mm-hmm.
all requiring upfront money.
Mm.
And luckily, with our previous businesses, we were in a position to be able to
Right.
not pay ourselves.
Uh-huh.
But that's not typical,
Right.
That's just not typical for the business average business owner or an entrepreneur or a franchisee. They just don't have that upfront money unless you finance.
Mm-hmm.
We chose, in our case, not to do it. Looking back on it, I think I still would have made the same decision on whether or not to finance. I think we would have been a little bit smarter about the debt that we did take on, and not necessarily doing it out of desperation, but doing it out of the true business needs. But hey, it is what it is. We put ourselves in a position, and we dug ourselves back out because we had a couple locations that weren't working out.
Okay.
And you can't predict some of this stuff.
Exactly.
One of the books I'm reading right now is Quit. And you're probably familiar with this because Jamal, we start book clubs, right? So we read a lot of books.
That's
not necessarily
great.
read, but we listen to. Because I spend so much time in the truck.
Oh, yes.
We put a podcast.
That's how I read all of my books. I'm
Absolutely,
in
right?
two book club, and the reason I read probably about 4 books a month, but I'm listening to them. That's why I love Audible. Best thing ever.
It is. So we buy books, and I listen to them. I'm listening to a book right now called Quit, and it tells you it's a book about knowing when to get out.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And you have to know when it's time to fold them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that in entrepreneurship and you know this, Jazen and Chee, this business is your baby. You built it from the ground up. We were given the opportunity to own a business.
Right.
And we never got that opportunity before.
Right.
We're creating generational wealth and all of the things that we tell ourselves. But we don't think about the exit strategy. And typically people think about the exit strategy when they're in stressful situations.
Yes.
Correct.
Or ready to retire. And by that time, it's too late. And so, I think the 3 of us in this room have all been in a situation where we've had to think about how to exit. So this book tells you about really, when you acquire the business, you should be thinking about your exit
Yes,
strategy
right.
from the beginning.
Mhm.
Well, and I love that. However, the attorney that we have, Daniel, he's awesome,
Mhm.
but that's one of the things that he counsels us about now too.
Mhm.
When we're going in business, that's part of his consulting with us is what's going to be your exit strategy.
That's right.
And so that is really important.
Mhm.
Like what did I say? Men lie, women lie, but
Mhm.
the numbers don't
The
lie.
numbers don't lie.
So
The numbers don't lie.
So
Absolutely.
definitely follow the numbers. So let me ask you, what's the wildest experience you had dealing with corporate franchisors? Have you ever felt handcuffed, by a franchise rule?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of rules that we try, I mean, okay.
Yeah.
No names.
Yes.
No names.
Yeah.
We what's the old saying? I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission.
Then permission, right.
We have you have to be willing to push the limits sometimes, within reason.
Right.
With franchisors, they have a goal in mind.
Oh, absolutely.
It may not be in line with your goals, and you have to decide what you want to push and what you want to leave alone.
Right.
We ran into some scenarios where, again, we want to relocate a store. We want to move the store, and we were given some limitations on that time frame in which we had to move the store. It put us in a bind, and we decided to do some other things.
Okay.
You have the ability to use some of your leverage.
Okay.
And we exercise some of our leverage, which put them in a bind.
Yeah.
So, but you also have to be ready to handle the fallout that comes from that.
Gotcha.
So you're going to get calls. We've gotten calls from the president of our franchise saying, "What are you doing?" And these are grown-up conversations.
Oh, yes.
Right? And they're very serious conversations, because in a lot of cases we have personal guarantees on some of our arrangements.
Right.
And they're not easy to get out of. So you have to be very, very creative in how you do things. So we became creative and restructured some of our partnerships.
Okay.
And all of our locations are independent of one another. Right?
Wonderful.
So they're separate companies in themselves. So it did give us the flexibility. And that was my brilliant business partner.
Okay.
Who came up with that structure, because it gives us some independence.
So I think that is very important to emphasize. So are you saying that you set up individual LLCs for each individual store?
Correct.
Okay. That is very important. That I want you guys to catch that. That's a really big nugget, because even in real estate, one of my mentors says that, and like I am migrating over I want to get into investing. And one of the things that my mentor highly recommends is that for every investment property, now, not if I'm just going to be flipping, but if I'm going to be holding on to something, make it its own LLC.
Correct.
So I think that's good no matter what industry you're in, is that way. If, we're in a sue crazy society right now, but if something unexpected happened and someone wanted to sue the company or sue you, they then can only go after assets with that particular LLC, and you're not tying it up with all the other properties or businesses that you may have. Do you agree with that?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Absolutely. It, I didn't realize the level of flexibility we had with that until we had to actually execute something. And in this case, again, it emphasizes the importance of knowing your options and putting yourself in the best position to win.
Absolutely.
And we had an episode about that. So we had an episode called "Getting It in Writing," and you'll have to revisit that on our YouTube channel.
That was actually episode 1.
It was,
yes.
But to that point, I think here's another opportunity for us to have another topic and show about kind of business setup and how to set up your businesses, because I think our viewers out there have these great ideas and want to build these conglomerates, more or less. And so it's really good to start now thinking about how to protect your assets, because that's what I hear, and protecting your liability in the long run. So I feel like that's another topic for us.
Okay, I'm making a note. I'm making a note.
Smart move on you and your business partners' foresight to kind of do that up front.
Absolutely.
Because, again, oftentimes in business we get into these distressed situations, and then we're advised to do these things, and at that point sometimes it's too late.
Absolutely.
Well, I wanted to add this too. I like that you said that something about the fact that sometimes you can have some creativity or ideas that come to mind that may not be within what the franchise initially set up. And there may be a little pushback, but don't be afraid to at least do that, because I can tell you, one of my really good friends actually owned I'll just say a Chicago's Nancy's Pizza, right? And that particular model was just pizza beverage. But when she and her husband went forward with theirs, and they were in the Buckhead area, and that's a great area for people who want to come and have a bar and drink. Well, they decided to get their liquor license and set up a bar, you know, which was ingenious. However, it wasn't in the franchise contract, but it wasn't anything in there that said you can't. It's just nobody ever thought about it. But, you know, they did that. They were able, you know, to come to, but that made them propel really great, you know.
Angela, that's a great point. So that I got two replies to that. One, in that book, Quit, it tells you that, you know, don't be afraid to implement something new.
There you go.
Right. And a lot of us get stuck in this analysis paralysis. And trying to perfect it before you launch it. And you sometimes in business you just got to do it.
You
just have to do it. And you massage it and mold it and shape it the way you want while it's running. While you're doing it. And then the book Quit kind of tells you when it's time to fold. If it's not working.
There you go.
But you've given it an opportunity to grow itself. And if you don't do those, if you don't take advantage of those opportunities, then you're missing out on profitability. You're missing on opportunities to really, really scale your business, doing something that, again, allows you to kind of think out of the box.
Absolutely.
We did a very similar thing just recently, and I'm going to plug our VIP service, right? VIP maintenance experience. So we have a number of customers that come in on a regular basis. They spend a certain dollar amount to maintain their vehicle per year. So why not have a VIP service where you pay a certain dollar amount per year and you get a package of all the things that you need to maintain your vehicle throughout the course of the year.
That's awesome.
Along with some other perks. You
Right.
might get a discount on some other services. But the basis is, one example was diagnostics. So a lot of people come in with check engine lights. They have an issue with their vehicle. If you're a VIP member, you come in, you get a free diagnostic.
That's
in other words, we can tell you what's going on with your vehicle.
Absolutely.
Unlimited throughout the course of the year. Whereas
I love
normally
it.
we have a charge for that. So with that and the discount, you end up winning in general, but it gives us some loyalty.
Right.
You know, it gives us another revenue stream.
There you are.
We're paid pretty much the entire course of the year for that particular customer's maintenance.
That's awesome.
And it was a win-win for pretty much everybody. Now, did we go through corporate to get this approved? Did we go to the franchisor and say, hey, we have this new model that we're trying to ship? No. We did it.
Right.
And we'll wait for them to say something.
There you are.
Okay. So you can't be afraid to try.
I love that.
But tell the people how also in franchises, you come up with something new, ingenious, the bar, the VIP program. And what happens is your franchisor sees that you are doing well. Like that actually was a good revenue generator.
Right.
And then you notice one day it's on the corporate website.
Yes. There you go.
So it does happen that way.
That's another one.
Because good ideas translate to
Now they want to spread it and give it to everybody. When it was originally your idea. Yeah.
Which, let's just say this. I don't see that, put it this way, that's a bad thing in a sense, because if it is something good, profitable,
Mm-hmm.
and you are a franchisor,
Mm-hmm.
and one of your goals should be you want all of your, franchisees to be profitable. However, I think that wonder if you can come up with like, we'll share what we're doing, but we need to get a piece
We
of
need a
this
piece
too
of it
because
too,
it was
right.
our idea.
Right.
Do you see?
Right.
And I think that's where it is. Don't be afraid to ask that. Like, yes, and especially if they want to call you in to sort of pick your brain, on a lot of things. Because I do think we should never be like this. You should always be willing to share, but that doesn't mean you have to give away things
Right.
for free because they don't give us the franchises for free, right?
Absolutely. You pay a lot of money.
Absolutely.
A lot. When I say a lot of money, it's a lot of money.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Just in franchise fees alone, we're at $250,000. Between our franchises. So you think about that dollar amount. That's money so this is, I know we'll get to this at some point talking about franchise versus independent.
Right.
And that's something you have to weigh.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because that 250 could be in my pocket.
Right.
That is straight profit.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, we're going to get to it now because that's what I wanted to ask you is because I get asked a lot, well, how do you know when it really is best to actually start up as a franchise, or if you're in a position to go ahead and just start up? What's your feelings on that?
Well, my feelings are, if I had to start over again, I still would have done the franchise first. Because I don't have the experience I have right now.
That's still learned. That's right.
Okay. I haven't gone through this a number of times, and there's some safety in being involved with a franchise. There's Meineke as a brand is well recognized. A lot of people know what that brand is, and I can't, there's some value to that, huge value. When you come out as an independent, going forward, now I'd say, oh no, I'm not paying that franchise fee. I'd rather just do this on my own and build my brand over time. But I know how to build my brand now. Right. I didn't know that when we initially started. So.
Okay. So let's I want to reframe just to make sure that I received as you just said that. So basically to our viewers, you're saying when you're lacking experience and the knowledge, that's probably when is the best time to get a franchise.
Right.
Once you actually have experience, you know how to market, and you have what it takes then to brand, then that's when perhaps you can look at starting from something from ground up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Because I'd agree with that too.
Yes. I agree with it. There's some experiences all of us have gone through with our other businesses. And I look back, it has helped me, for example, employees, right? Dealing with a lot of employees, recruiting, terminating, disciplining, all of this, it's easier for me now, but I had to go through that with 120 employees and literally almost getting in physical fights with employees to realize how I need to approach this.
Right.
Because I don't want that to happen again.
Right.
But it's almost impossible to tell somebody that. You have to go through it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In order to appreciate the knowledge and experience that you get from that.
So. And the strategy.
Oh,
how to do it sometimes.
Absolutely.
And the laws.
Oh,
and the laws.
I was going to say. Yes.
And the laws.
Federal.
And I think that when, I had my e-commerce business, that was one of my stronger suits, only because for the past, prior to that, I had been in human resources for like the past 8 years. And so I became like an expert in that. And so I've actually had to let someone go and they hug me.
Right.
Because I've just learned, you can still leave people with their dignity.
You can.
Because I don't really believe you fire anybody. My whole philosophy is people fire themselves. They already know. Most of the time they've messed up. They've already known, or whatnot. But so it's just the way you do it, the way you talk to people, and there really is a skill and a strategy, behind that. But I will say that's probably one of my strongest suits. Is
him too.
Is
so
HR.
So tell her about your background in HR. Prior
to
franchising.
Well, to your point, 120, 130 employees. You built up a tolerance. you try your best not to make it impersonal. And to your point, most people do fire themselves. Those are the easy ones, to be honest with you. The tough ones are the ones where you may have to cut back. You have to scale back because the
if
business,
it's due to budget or
is there.
something,
Yeah, those are tough.
That is very hard
because you end up letting
right
people go that
right
that aren't expecting it,
exactly
and they might be the low person on the totem pole,
exactly
and you have to let them go. And those, be honest with you, are the tougher ones.
Oh
I
yes
just had one recently,
oh yes
and tears involved from the employee and their spouse.
Oh yeah
And you hear it, you
Yeah.
know, and you
Yeah.
feel it, and those are very, very tough scenarios. My military background really helped me a lot,
That's great.
especially with managing people.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily the HR part, but once I get you in, you're mine.
That's
and,
great.
And we
Yep.
have to manage you properly.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, one of the things that you had mentioned is sometimes when you find that you are hiring, maybe especially when you're first getting started,
Mhm.
and that you may have turnover, because studies do show it is more costly to
turnover.
hire some. That's very
It's major
costly.
disruption.
So one of the biggest things then with that is you want to have systems in place
Yes.
so that you are, how can I say, you're setting what your culture is going to be,
Mhm.
for the employees, and a system in place sort of that everyone also is getting the same type of
Mhm.
um, orientation in a
Right.
sense, because I knows that the companies that I've worked for, very large companies, and one of the things they did a great job at is, they would have videos of the CEOs, CFOs actually, so that we're all hearing the same thing,
Message, right.
because they're not going to come when you got thousands of employees.
Yes.
They can't personally deliver, but that's when you can use the technology, to ensure that everybody is, on the same page when they leave day one, on the same page when they leave week one. That's one way to sort of cut down. Now, you have to keep in mind that people hire people to most of the time write a resume. So you're not really hiring,
Right.
who you think. That's generally why a lot of companies go with the probationary period.
Yes.
Because, what can you say? Even in a relationship, you're not necessarily bringing your real self at first. The
Right.
imposter is coming,
The representative.
the representative,
Representative.
yes, is
Absolutely.
showing up. And so in companies that's like that, that's why, now I can tell you, one of the things I had a very firm, I take a very firm stance on is people showing up late for an interview. And the reason why I do that, because usually you are putting your best foot forward during the courtship. That's the courtship, right?
Right.
Now, if you're courting me and you lackadaisical, unless it was now Atlanta's traffic, can be a little crazy, right? But if you didn't plan for that, you got to really show me that you put in a plan for that or whatnot, because certainly somebody can be always on time and that be the one time like, oh my gosh. And you'll sort of see that or feel,
Right.
on that. But I have a strong rule for that. And then when it was my e-commerce business, if I hired somebody and they had any type of accident in one of my vans within the first 7 days, I immediately got rid of them. Because, but I told them up front that was going to happen, because again, that's when you're at your best. When you're like, oh gosh, first time driving, I'm gonna be so careful. That shows me they don't really care.
Right.
And so the person that I didn't do that to ended up having a major accident. That's how I came to that conclusion.
Right.
So for me, you just learn different things, but you've got to pay attention to the signs.
Yeah.
You know.
I think with people, kind of going back to people being at the core of all of your franchises and previous experience, people are like a wild card, right?
Yes.
It could be, like you said, it could be the best relationship, best employees that you've ever had. And some days it could be not so pleasant.
Right.
So I think that what I've learned in the franchise world is that people are at the core of your business. Yes, I could be selling cars. Yes, I could be fixing cars. Yes, I could be delivering packages, whatever the business is, the thing. But people are technically at the core of my business. So if I don't manage my people or figure out systems to manage my people,
you are.
Then I'm going to be in a world of trouble.
You are.
Oh, yes.
I think the biggest thing that I get out of, especially with people, is just expect the unexpected. Expect that there are going to be surprises that are outside of the norm. And you have to have a mentality that, hey, I'm here. And this is a real mental shift that you have to make as an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur is you have to welcome problems. You have to welcome issues. You have to say in your mind, when somebody presents an issue or problem, okay, I'm glad you brought that to me. Let's handle it.
Right.
It can't be, oh, I hope nothing pops up. I hope this, I hope
Oh,
that.
why are you bringing that
That's
to
all hope.
me? You know?
Exactly. Why are you bringing that to me? It changes your perception on how to
Mm-hmm.
handle the
Yeah.
situation. And if you expect it and you've molded your attitude towards
That's
it in
right.
such a way that
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to solve these problems,
Exactly.
it makes solving the problem so much
It
easier
does.
than saying, "Oh, why did this happen?
Exactly.
Oh man,
Exactly.
that it's just inherent with the business problems. You're the problem solver.
Okay,
You're the
speak
magnet.
into that camera and
Yes,
say that.
you're
if you
the problem
Yes.
solver. They're
Sure
going
is.
to no one
Yes.
else. They're going to no
Right.
one else when there's a problem, and they will keep calling until you address the problem.
Yeah.
So that, to me, is super important because you can have all the rules set in place. This
Yes.
is how I do things.
Yes.
Da, da, da.
This
I
is my SOP.
promise you.
Right.
Yes, somebody's gonna come and blow them rules out,
Oh,
of the, out
absolutely.
of the box, and then you're kind of stuck with what do I do now,
Right.
right? So it really boils
Yep.
down to your attitude towards it.
I want to say this too. Now, one of the things that was my pet peeves in when I was in corporate India as a business is when leaders won't face a problem head on.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times it can be one person doing something and they come to me and they want me to make a policy
Mhm.
for, and I'm like,
Face.
how many employees is doing that?
Right.
Oh, it was just one. Like, no, that's not one a policy. You go to that person.
Right.
You
Right.
know, that was always ridiculous to me. You
Mhm.
go, you have a difficult conversation. I will sit down with you to share how do you have difficult conversations. But I don't like for companies to hide behind policies when it's only
Mhm.
one offender.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now when you have several people doing something, now it's time to address, okay, we need to make a policy. But one person, and you just don't want to go and tell that we
You
don't
deal
do
with
that
it.
here.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
That's hard. You know, I'm very fortunate to have, and this is a lesson, find the right business partner. Right. You can do it by yourself. Don't get me
Yes.
wrong, but everything falls on your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Finding the right business partner and having someone to motivate you
Mm-hmm.
and push you, it goes so far. In my particular situation, I have a business partner for this business, but also my wife is my business partner.
Mm-hmm.
So she has a franchise herself. And we had this conversation. So you
Yes.
ask yourself, would you start a franchise or would you go independent?
Mm-hmm.
In her case, again, the experience. Let's do this with the franchise, see how it goes.
Right.
If you like it, we'll keep going. If
Right.
you don't, we'll pivot
Okay.
and find something else.
Mm-hmm.
But with both of my business partners, we have a role.
Exactly.
My role is different than his role.
Correct.
Right? And this is why it's important to find a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Because you want somebody who wants to do the things that you don't want to do.
Right.
Right?
And
Right.
good at
And
them.
that's
Yes.
a very, very good thing.
Right.
And he doesn't want to do the things that I do, that I enjoy doing.
Exactly.
So
Right.
us as a whole, we work well as a team. But he plays offense, I play defense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's real in a business. And it's funny because I do it with my business partner, Meineke, and I do it with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we have a personal relationship, she's offense. She's in the shop. She loves operations. She loves dealing with the people on a regular
Right.
basis.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I'm in the background.
Right.
Who's dealing with the lawsuit?
There you go.
Who's dealing with the
Compliance.
HVAC system
Oh,
breaking
yes.
down? Who's dealing with the lease?
Mm-hmm.
Who's dealing with all this other stuff that
Yes.
is here to take away from the business?
Right.
You know what I mean? You
Exactly.
build the business. I'll protect what you bring in.
Correct.
Okay, and we do that. I do that for both sides, and I find my role. I love my role.
Right.
Now, would I go in business by myself? I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But I love the partnership arrangement where you have people that are competent,
Right.
and you have to have that hard conversation about what do you bring to the table? What do I bring to the table? And is it enough to make this business successful?
That is beautiful. That's
agree.
great. I really like that you brought that up because I get asked that often as to, well, is it really best to go in business by yourself, or is it really best to go in business with a partnership?
Right.
And you hit something nail on, and I just wanted to reemphasize this to the viewers. Everybody, I don't care who you are, has strengths.
Yes.
And you have weaknesses. You're going to have things that are involved in a business that you naturally enjoy doing and that you just don't. So if you are in a position, I love partnerships for the very same reason that you just said. If there's something that you're going to have for your business to survive, to thrive, to be successful, and you just don't like doing a particular asset, if there is someone that is strong in that area and that you have a trust in each other, and have a common goal, I think that's the most beautiful fit that you can have.
Absolutely.
And that way, everybody's got a role. You can do what you enjoy and that you're expert at. This other person can do that.
Yes.
So I absolutely love partnerships.
Yeah. It's important. You can do it, like I said, all the money is yours, but man, 100% of nothing is nothing.
There you go.
You got a partner, at least you get 50% and he's working just as hard to do that. And but again, the balance in the partnership, finding the right partner, a person that's committed and willing to do the same things that you're doing, has a passion for what they're doing, is willing to teach you, and you kind of bounce off of each other. And I have that. I'm very fortunate to have that in both my partners.
That's great. That is
and
so
be honest with you, in my pivot, my next venture, I'm building teams to do just the same thing because I've recognized that that's my talent.
Awesome.
Right? My talent is seeing things in people that can contribute to a team effort. Versus me just doing everything myself.
Oh yes,
because there's certain things I'm just not good at.
Right.
I've come to the point where I've realized that, and I'm fine with it.
Well, it sounds like, Jason, that is called, you are the leader, but you have to probably get better at delegating.
There you go.
Because the best leaders really understand that you don't have to do everything that's in your role, especially if it's something that you can be doing that can be helping making your business grow more money or bringing in profits, because we do go in business to make money. Okay. So that's one of the biggest things that I had to learn. I remember one of my mentors, when he came and saw my business, when I was with the e-commerce and we were operating, we had our own office. He's like, you've built a great team, but you need to step back because you've got all these team leaders in place, but you gotta let them do their job. Like, don't come in sometimes, because I still would go in. He's like, you've got to learn to let them, because people want an opportunity to shine in their roles and everything. And so as a leader, you have to be mindful too, that as you're building your team, everybody wants to have opportunities where they can, grow and everything. And you need to give them a chance to shine. So I had to learn to step back and to delegate. And then that freed me up, to do other things.
And the best leaders I see, and both of you have this talent, but I see that you know how to hire the people who can do the thing that either you don't enjoy doing or, like you said, they're better at it.
Right.
So the best leaders I see is they know how to hire the best people.
Absolutely.
For that particular role and responsibility.
Absolutely.
I know we're a little bit over time.
We are?
But a little bit.
Man,
I know. It's just,
oh my
gosh.
gosh.
So quick. But I was going to ask you, what's a couple of things that, as an insider, a franchisor or franchisee, what are some things that maybe the typical viewer or the typical listener wouldn't know about franchising? Sort of insider information. Give them like the juice, the good juice.
Franchisors, they don't have the same goals that you do. They, if you push them in a corner, they're going to come out swinging. And you have to be prepared with your entire team to be able to deal with the fallout when the relationship starts to go sour. But you also have to be mature enough to recognize when, again, the book, when to quit, when to move away from the challenge, when to walk away from a location, when to walk away from a strategy that you just insist on doing, but it disagrees with the franchisor.
Gotcha.
It can get really ugly when it starts getting into legal issues. And have a good legal team.
Oh, definitely.
Have a good legal
Definitely.
team.
Let me double down on that. We have another episode where we talk about building a team.
That's right.
And we had legal on there, right, Angela?
That is extremely important.
Make
You
sure
got to
you
have
got the
your
right advisor.
absolutely.
Not just legal, but advisors
Yes.
advising you on some of the things.
So be prepared to, that's one, and that's dealing with the franchisor. The other part that it's like an inside thing that people really don't realize, and it varies from franchise to franchise, is be prepared for lawsuits. It's a legal thing too, but customers are going to sue, employees are going to sue. I remember, in our previous business in logistics, I was like, oh my God, my life is over. Somebody's suing me. Oh my God, I can't, what do I do? I got this demand letter. I got this, they send it to your,
They want discovery information.
Yes, they're digging, and you're sitting there, and it keep you up at night. It'll rattle you at first. Now I get lawsuits, and I see the email, and I'm like, I'll deal with that tomorrow.
Forward.
That's
my team.
Forward on who deals with that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let me reach out to Daniel.
Exactly.
We need to talk to him.
Exactly.
So I don't get as frazzled as much, especially when and again, this goes back to policy, procedures that you have in place with employees and how they do things in the shop. Because to your point, if they're not following the process 100%, you want to nip that in the bud early as possible to avoid things like lawsuits.
Exactly.
Because if you have all your ducks in a row and they follow the process, and that's why sometimes I don't worry, because they come up for certain centers.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I know they follow the process. I'm not even going to deal with that right now. That's just a customer who's disgruntled, pissed off, mad at us because, in our business, there's it's already tainted to a certain degree because people are like, oh, you're going to cheat me. You're going to, and our goal is to be as transparent as possible. You see what we see. Right. Yeah. That's why everything is digital. I send it to you. I'm not making this up, ma'am. Look at your brakes. They're gone. Your rotors, metal on metal, right?
And I do like that.
They'll come back regardless. And I just want to sue because you told me this and da. And you realize sometimes it's frivolous, but you need an attorney in place to answer.
Absolutely.
These demands.
Yes.
And so that's one of those inside things that rattles a franchisee and makes them nervous, but after a while you get used to it, but you don't want to get caught up.
So let me tell you my experience as a franchisee on a positive side. And I didn't know, have you all, two things that I did like is they would have an annual meeting where we got to meet other franchisors.
Right.
Franchisees. And so then you develop a relationship. So I would then call on a franchisee that has been doing that longer than me. Like I'm having this challenge. And I found that they were more than welcoming to answer my question and say, oh, you know what, this is what you need to do with that. And so I liked that fact, when I had my franchise that I could call, I had like two people that were my mentors in a sense that I would call them and they could
We did something similar. Yeah. Okay. We have something. We have an annual meeting that now we actually send employees down because they have it at some resort or something like that. And we went the first couple of years, but then we started realizing, hey, you're sending your managers. So we turned it into an incentive type trip.
Right.
So if you do this, and it's our first year trying it, so we ended up sending our guys to Cancun for the annual trip, and they absolutely loved it. So that
now,
was one of the things that turned into something else.
Ingenious. Yeah. I love that because you want to always be looking for opportunities to reward those that are really helping you. Yeah. Keep those doors open and keep your customers happy. And what a great way that just to say that. So I love that.
Yeah. Next thing best to money.
Really great.
The best thing next to money is a trip.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Take the money first.
I love that. So let me ask you this. One of our last questions is, what's the biggest lessons from the past that has helped you shape your future? Can you think of a lesson from your past?
Absolutely. One of the things I struggle with, and even I struggle with to this day, is I have a tendency to procrastinate. Okay. And what I've realized is, and that's, it's a personal thing with me, and I've done it since high school, I know I have a test coming up. I do it at the last minute. I still get an A. I walk away like nothing happened. Right. And as you get older, you continue that habit of doing things at the last minute or pushing it off because you don't feel like dealing with it at the time. And I know I'm not the only person that struggles with this. People do it all the time. And as I got older, I realized that if you address it early, typically it'll work out in your favor. If you address it early, typically it's going to work out in your favor. And you want to get to a point where you're addressing things that aren't even an issue yet.
Get ahead of it.
Right? So
Absolutely.
you're way ahead of it.
Oh, yes.
So when it does happen, you're calm, cool, and collected because I saw this coming a long time ago. I'm ready for it. So
I got it.
That was that. I would say that
That's
was one of my biggest lessons.
That's
is
really good.
try your best not to procrastinate. If you get the email, it's that saying that me and Jamal were going with the heart. We're like,
only handle it once.
Yes, only handle it once, but handle it immediately. So that get up and do it now. Get up and do it now. Get up and do it now. You read the email. Get your ass up and do it now. Sorry to curse, but I have to tell myself that.
Right.
And then when I do address it, all the stress goes away.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, that's what I want to hone in on, because when you were in college, what you were describing, now I was a psychology minor. Our next guest that's coming is a psychologist. He would probably have something to say to that. But there is something to people who feel, that they perform better under pressure. And I don't know what that word is, but I will say when you're a leader that's responsible for people and how they make their money and keeping the doors open, you don't really want to.
No, you don't.
That's not the best way to operate, because I have just taught myself, after listening to mentors and just going through a lot of leadership training, is not to procrastinate. It is because I think of it like this. I want to try to get as much done today as I can because I know tomorrow is going to have a whole new set of demands. So if I don't get so much done, that means I got to do something tomorrow and I got to bring yesterday's issues with me. So that's one of the things that helps me with that and what you just said. And I want to just say this for the viewers. When you get it done, you automatically relieve the stress off yourself. Right?
You do.
Absolutely.
It disappears.
So
it disappears.
I love it. I love it.
So the last thing I will say though is, I just want to mention about pivoting. We didn't touch on it too much.
Okay.
But,
absolutely.
When I got into the logistics, luckily my brother was in already, and he'd been in for a year already. And he gave me some advice when I first came in. He said, make sure you know what you're doing next before you start this. And it put me in a frame of mind. This is actually how I met Jamal, is because he was in the same frame of mind. And he said, whatever you pivot to, start working on it now. While I'm doing this business.
Absolutely.
And it was the best advice that I'd ever gotten from my brother.
Absolutely.
And that's what actually pivoted us into the franchise business.
Right.
Because we were looking for a way to service our own vans.
That's
we just saw we were wasting money going out the window.
Absolutely.
So
the best ideas usually come from necessity.
Absolutely. So even now, I'm pivoting.
Right.
So the pivot is government contracting. This is an area that we're moving into right now.
That's awesome.
It's tough, but I knew that it's going to take me a year, maybe 2 years to build a team.
Absolutely.
Continue to quote. So I went in early enough to make the mistakes.
Gotcha.
And that's what we've been doing for the last years, making mistakes, but making headway at the same time. So now it's put us in a position that we're bidding on some serious contracts that will allow us to pivot completely from what we're doing already. But the advice that I give in that is always think about your next move. Because what you're doing always doesn't last forever.
Absolutely.
But you have to pivot and you have to give yourself enough cushion to prepare for that pivot. Money, time, all of that stuff.
Exactly.
So,
I love that point. And we're going to end on that high note. But I thank you so much for bringing that up. And thank you for your brother expressing that. Now, I actually, some kind of way, had that mindset, even though nobody verbalized that to me. But I love that. Now I've got a mental note because when I was with the second e-commerce company that I knew that from day one after getting in there, It's more like, you know how you say you hire people
Right.
that you already say they're not what they representing.
Right.
You can actually get in with the company and realize they're not how they represent it and everything. So I
know about that
immediately,
too.
exactly.
Absolutely,
So I
absolutely.
immediately knew that I needed to be, I was planning for my exit strategy.
Right.
So I wanted to stack, build my money so that I can have my next business. And when you're thinking like that, this is one of the things I want to say.
Mhm.
You always do best, be good to everybody because you never know who's watching you.
Absolutely.
And how I got my next opportunity is someone noticed, you know, how I was with my team, how I conducted myself
Right.
when I was, you know, we had our, you know, owners meetings or whatnot. And they came to me with an idea that they thought, I love your leadership style. Would you be open to something like this? So networking, I always say this, is not only who knows you, but who knows what you do.
Very true.
Or whatnot.
That's
and
right.
People are watching you.
They are.
They are watching you. Okay.
All the time.
Since we're a little bit up on time, I'm going to pivot our podcast a little bit, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
And I want you to look in the camera and give us one word or 2 words, maybe a sentence, a response on that. So I'll skip our viewer question today.
Okay.
But I want you to tell us. So in a few words, Jazen, can you tell us how it feels to be an entrepreneur?
Fulfilling.
Okay.
It's fulfilling. It is. Okay, I'll give you a great example. When I was in corporate, and you guys may have felt this, Sunday, I used to get the Sunday night jitters, the Sunday night stomach rumble, thinking about waking up Monday morning to go to work. It's not a bad thing. It's not like I was, oh my God, I dread this job. I enjoy my job. But there was this rumbling that I used to get because I used to be like, why do I have to do this? I needed money. I got to pay my bills. Yeah. But as an entrepreneur, you don't get that feeling. You almost get this feeling of like, all right, I got to get up and make this happen. You get excited about the fact that it's yours, right? And I can describe the feeling, but you won't feel it until you're actually doing it.
Right.
And I've been in business many a times before we got to this. I've started several businesses that have failed, right? And I learned something from each one. It's different when you get one that actually is generating enough revenue for you to live off. It's a different feeling. You are thinking about it 24 hours a day. It becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
So that is very fulfilling to know that you've done it, you've accomplished your goal, and you're living off of it, you're eating off of it. And that, I can't really describe that feeling. That's something that you just have to try.
Yeah.
I love that question. Can I answer it too?
Yes, you answer it. Go ahead.
Because I will say, to me, it's almost like becoming a parent. You know, when you hear people, you know, talk about, oh, how nice they, you know, love their children. You don't really know how it feels to actually love a child until you actually become a parent.
Right.
You know, and that's what I would say about a business, because I would walk in sometimes, and I'm going to tell you what gave me the greatest feeling at all is knowing that I was providing a way I can look around and I'm seeing, oh my gosh, I've got 90 people that's working here that they're able to pay their bills as a result of my, you know, taking a chance, going out. And that gave me a great feeling.
Sense of responsibility.
You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, that just feels, you know, you're just not only responsible, but, and then especially if they're smiling and then maybe they have their children, they can come and say, you know, little Jesse got to go to football camp and, you know, hey, our company gave him money to do that. It's just a good feeling.
It's a good feeling. So yeah.
So how does it make you feel, Dee?
So I was going to say, I mean, definitely a sense of fulfillment that I'm able to help other people. But also I think for me, because to Jazen's point, his business partner and I have been able to provide experiences for our family as well. So I think that sense of going beyond sort of the job mindset and being responsible for all these people across multiple businesses, as you just discussed, we were able and we have been able to provide experiences for our family that we may not get that opportunity. Right. So that is a good feeling that I feel when I think about, my journey in business and franchise ownership and all that good stuff. So
now, viewers, we're getting ready to wrap this up. But if you guys haven't caught on by now, I just wanted to let you know that Jazen's partner is Deonna's husband, okay? And he's just the type that, he wants to make a lot of money, but he doesn't really want you to know who he is.
So we'll edit his name out of this episode. However, I want to remind you guys, if you have questions, please drop us an email at cheeanddee@gmail.com. That's CheeAnddee@gmail.com. You may hear your question on a future episode. And while you're at it, please make sure you hit the subscribe button in YouTube. Go up to the top. I'm sure Kenny's got it listed somewhere on this camera screen, but make sure you hit the subscribe button. I want you to follow us on IG, Facebook, all platforms. And trust me, you don't want to miss our next episode. We also have a new website. So I want you to go visit our website. Boomlennialpodcast.us is our website. So please take advantage. Follow us, engage with us. We love to hear from you. And we want you on our show, right?
Absolutely. And we want to stay connected. We want to hear maybe what are some of the topics that you want to, what are you thinking about? What do you want us to address? Now, listen, family, mark your calendars, mark your reminders. But whatever you have to do, remember, we drop an episode on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of the month at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I wanted to say, Jazen, thank you so much for being our special guest today.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, gosh. Yep. We have gotten some gems. We really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to rock this episode, not because of you being you, me knowing you personally, but also you have so much experience. And I wanted folks to hear your story and your other business partner's story.
I'll be happy to come back. I got some things. We got things coming up pretty soon. Please have me back. I'll give you some updates.
Okay. We love it. We will definitely keep that in mind.
So join us next time for our next episode entitled Red, Blue, and Business, How Leadership Policies Are Shaping Our Current Economy. It's going to be epic, y'all. Get ready. Trust me, you do not want to miss this one.
Okay. So until next time, shine bright and do business right. Bye.